We're streaming live on YouTube, so feel free to head on down there. It's youtube.com/smooth981FM Lagos. And also, you can reach out to us on Twitter. Please use the hashtag freshlypressed981. Finally, your messages come to 0809 444 0981. And of course, leading us through conversations this morning is Mr. Ugo Dre. Good morning.
Morning, sir. How are you?
Great, great,
Morning,
great.
sir, man.
Good to have you in the studio. All right, you can find him on social media. He's at Ugo Dre. And let's dive right into the
Oh,
stories.
by the way, good to have you in the studio up on youtube.com/smooth981FM Lagos. If you are watching the live stream, make sure you send your comments in to join the conversation. We will be reading from them as the show does go on. And of course, you can send WhatsApp messages in to 0809 Last but definitely not the least is Twitter. Hashtag freshlypressed981. Join the conversation up on that platform.
All right, let's dive into the first story. This one piqued a bit of interest for me this morning. It talks about, it's from this day newspaper. It says, court orders federal government, army to pay 1 billion naira compensation, tender apology to Kanu over invasion of his home. Now, a bit of background to this. An Abia State High Court in Umaya on Wednesday ordered the federal government and the army high command to pay a sum of 1 billion naira compensation to the leader of the indigenous people of Biafra over the invasion of his home in 2017. And I mean, well, this has generated a lot of reactions on the social media and everywhere. But Ubudre, what do you make of this?
Appears to be an inflection point in this case between Kano and the government. So, why does this matter? When the Kano had taken the government to court for invading its home last year, I think that was last August, and the whole why this he did this because if he's able to prove that the government invaded his home, and by invading his home they threatened his life,
Violated his rights.
right? Yeah, violated his rights as well. Then you can't accuse him of jumping bail, which is one of the reasons why the government is calling him as well. So, so that's why it's important that he proceed with this in a particular case. And now he's gotten judgment against the government, and the judge has said yes, the government did actually, the military did actually invade his home and destroy his home, and for that reason, they have to pay compensation of 1 billion. And the government tried to deny. At some point they said they didn't even know who invaded his home, and the judge said, look, you can't say you don't know who invaded his home, and even if you don't know, you have the right to protect the citizens of this country, no matter what they've done. And so, that's why the judgment was against the government. So now, whether the government will pay the 1 billion fine or whether they would even listen to the judge is different entirely. We don't know how the law goes with this country sometimes.
Or a response to rule of
Or response to the rule of law, right? So the issue now is this is separate from the current trial going on in Abuja, right? But does have some sort of relationship because if he's able to claim clearly that look, I didn't jump bail, I was threatened and so I had to leave, that just changes the course of the entire case and the entire dynamics of what it's about. So that's why I said it's an inflection point. Let's see how this.
I was just going to ask you now. You said let's see how it goes, but in your opinion, now this is your opinion. In your opinion, do you think that this would have an effect on the other trial that's going on? Talking about how, if it will affect the other trial generally, do you think that they would waive it because of this judgment that's been given?
That's exactly what I just said. So it has an effect on it because part of what he's in court for, what the government is claiming against him, was that he jumped bail. So that those charges are there as well. And of course, terrorist alleged terrorist activities, which he's also fighting in court. So this, whether you like it or not, helps his case. Whether the government likes it or not, helps his case. And that's why I said this is very pivotal to the current case that he has in court. But like I said, I don't know if the government is going to appeal this or how long they're going to drag this matter. But this is a serious victory for Nnamdi Kanu and his supporters in this fight against the government. And of course, the government's fight against terrorism.
something this kind of reminds me of is the El Zakzaki case. And, the fact that he and his wife were illegally detained for so long, only released, last year? I'm wondering if, what precedent this could set going forward, whether we might see more cases coming about as a result of
So
this.
it had to know, but one thing that's clear is, and I think the court has been consistent with this over the years, you do not forcefully go into people's homes, no matter what they've done, to try and adopt them or to try and forcefully gain entry or get them out. It's against the law, and I think the courts have been consistent with this over time. Whether the government now,
Repeals.
proceeds to actually, implement the judgment is a different thing. And like you just cited the case for Zazaki, they kept him there for years, despite judgment against the government.
True.
Right. So now this case is even different because there are other charges against Nnamdi Kanu as well. So this is actually Nnamdi Kanu taking the government to court. And this is not about him asking for a release. This is just claiming damages against the government. And so, and I mean, this, like I said, is very important to the case at hand. Because his point is, look, I didn't jump bail. I had to run away from my life, and this also has responses as well from the international community because they are also listening in and they're saying, look, you know what, the guy had to leave because you were threatening his life, and that's what the judge has just that's the verdict of the judge as well. So it has ramifications, and let's see. I mean, what the government says and where we go from here.
It's quite interesting that you bring up the international front because sometimes you might forget it being,
it's not just
here.
local. Yeah.
Especially as we had news even regarding the Twitter ban yesterday coming out, where Nigeria's human rights, what's the word? Human rights. I can't remember.
Activists.
Nigeria's human rights profile is going down, basically. That human rights are being degraded in Nigeria.
Oh,
Something
please,
that's
they should go sit down, man.
that's
I
in
agree
the
that-
country we can see, but outside they are starting to talk more about it. All right, let's move on. Secretary says, "Oh, please." Moving on to news from the Premium Times. Pictures of northern governors with associates of banditry kingpin Turji raise dust. Now, commentators are demanding an investigation of the relationship between some governors and an associate of notorious banditry kingpin Bello Turji. This associate is Musa Kamarawa, who has been cited in pictures. There is pictorial evidence of some sort of relationship going on between, at least knowledge of each other going on between him and governors of Zamfara and Sokoto, governors Bello Matawale and Aminu Tambuwal, and the deputy governor of Sokoto, Manir Dan Iya. So, Musa Kamarawa is a nephew of a former governor of Sokoto State, Atahiru Bafarawa, and investigations by Premium Times revealed that he was among those first contacted by Governor Matawale after he was declared governor in 2019 to facilitate a peace accord with the bandits. And there's a lot more to this story, Ugodre, but first of all, there's not really been any mention made of when exactly these pictures were taken, but there does seem to be a whole lot of brouhaha with regards to the fact that he is cited with them. What's your take on this?
I like the headline. Very funny. It says it raises dust. The dust will settle eventually. So there are a lot of to read through the story, there are different things happening, and it appears whoever wrote this is just trying to knit things together and try to make sense of what has happened. So there are two bandits here: the Musa Kamarawa and of course Tuji, who a lot of people know as well as
the notorious name in
notorious
the
bandits. At the Sokoto area. So these are the guys who basically terrorize Sokoto and the environs. And so at some point when the current, when the leaders of governors of Zamfara and Sokoto came into power, as you would expect, well, maybe that's the wrong term, but as governors would typically do as part of their, trying to make peace with the enemies, they reached out to the bandits. Of course, back then bandits weren't known as terrorists, but now I think they're known as terrorists. So reached out to the bandits, right, and tried to have some kind of peace accord. And so I think that sort of explains where this picture is coming from. And I think towards the end of the article, they didn't mention that. So that's why sometimes the way these headlines are written, you really have
It
to read these
raises
articles.
dust.
Don't just read the headline and then just assume that that's really the story. So you can infer that that's basically how that picture was taken, and that's what most of these politicians do normally. Now, but the other side of the story, which is quite interesting, is that it's the relationship between governors and some of these bandits. They actually know these people, right? So they know them very well. I think here, Mr. Kamarawa, for example, Mr. Kamarawa is a cousin to the former governor of Sokoto State, that's Atari Bafarawa, who is very outspoken against banditry as well. So and they're just cousins, right? So
I think this says he's the nephew.
nephew. Oh, sorry, nephew. Kamara's mother is the elder sister of the former governor. Sorry, nephew. Jeez.
That's okay.
I gotta
That's
mix
okay.
this up sometimes.
That's okay.
Anyway, so it's the nephew, exactly. So just shows the relationship between a lot of these guys, and I think all through the last 3 to 4 years, the governors of Zamfara and Sokoto State, which is Tambuwa, and forgotten the other chap's name, have been trying to see if they can have some sort of peace accords with these bandits, just so that they can have all this banditry stop in their states. But that didn't happen. So it's a strange it's just the way the story
It's a strange
was put
relationship
together.
at the same time.
I don't think the relationship is strange. Like this is what happens.
And by the way,
that we
can we
don't.
say just because there are familial ties doesn't mean anything? Because if you look
Of
at
course.
Turji's family, they have stepped away from it. They stepped away from him because they were not happy with the path that
Exactly.
he took.
Exactly. So the point is that a lot of all these bandits and co are actually very powerful people because they are very well known in the political circles. Sometimes, if you go investigate further, you find that there were also political affiliates of a lot of the politicians in power. It's just that at some point they fall out, and then when you now don't have access to power, you have to look for power in a different way, and then, banditry, terrorism, and things like that. So it's just interesting, this sort of relationships that you have, with these guys. But to the picture, I mean, one can infer that this picture was taken when they were trying to make peace in quotes.
Let me ask this question from a layman's perspective, and I'm sure that a lot of people might be thinking about this the same way. So if we know these bandits, right, there's some sort of relationship, and I've been saying crackdown yesterday, so I'm not going to say it again. But why can't the government, with its full weight, clamp down on these known bandits? Because we've talked about these pictures, we've talked about dialogue seems not to work. So I mean, what else can work?
What else can work?
Yes.
I mean, there's some people who actually don't even believe in dialogue, right? Because you would think that it sort of fosters things like this, right? You dialogue with people who maybe have ideological differences from you, and because they have serious ideological differences from you, decide to take on arms. And when I say ideological differences, it can be religious, it can be politics. But when you have people who are just pure like criminals, just stealing, maiming people, for whatever reason outside ideology, then I think that personally I really don't know what is there to discuss, right? That's why you have that's why you have soldiers, that's why you have security agencies to go and to go after people like this and not go into people's homes and break their homes down and try to abduct them, like the judge has just said.
I like that tie-in, Jerry. We've got messages coming in. Who is this
AK
person?
Pizza.
AK Pizza, there we go. Saying, Goodray, please confirm the invasion of Nnamdi Kanu's house was 2017.
17, yeah.
Going on to say, in addition, assuming this judgment is upheld on appeal, it won't expunge other terrorism charges against him. The part of jumping bail might be amended. We've got more.
D from Alausa says arrest can be made at a suspect's home with a valid arrest warrant.
Correct.
Please give correct and unbiased information. Thank you, D. We appreciate that.
Yeah, that's what I said. I said you don't invade people's houses without just can't go in someone's house and break his house down and
He
abduct
did say that quite a few times. We have Uche Agu from Isola saying victory, 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 all the way from Mazi Namdi Kalu. And Inka Balu says that judge has to be sanctioned. 1 billion naira in damages? I thought we said we have revenue problems. Where are we going to get it from? How about a more reasonable amount in damages than you really expect the federal government to pay? Almost a whole state's monthly allocation.
Mhm.
For me, the judge just wanted to catch crews and make a mockery of our judicial system, says Yinka. Also saying, Shopper nephew, cousin of their Sha family members. And of course, you can leave your messages up on youtube.com/smooth981FM, Lagos.
And yes, Lagos. This one from J Crispy says, "How convenient is it for you guys to keep calling them bandits rather than terrorists?" Well, we've been talking. We've actually mentioned that a few times now.
What's going on? Like, we just said it here as well.
So you know what? As with all name changes, it can take a little while to catch on, but we have been very vocal about it here on Freshly Press from past shows as well, where we have said that this is they are now terrorists.
Mhm.
Sometimes the word bandits does slip out, but Ugudre once again said terrorists.
This one from King's Kid said, "Can we have intelligence in dealing with bandits, considering that they're known?" And this was a part of what we discussed earlier. If you want to be a part of our talk still, send your messages to 0809-444-0981. The next story comes to you still, Lukudre, and it talks about the electoral bill. We're back to this again. So, the National Assembly bows to Buhari and approves direct and indirect primaries for parties, from the Vanguard. So the National Assembly yesterday re-amended the 2010 Electoral Act Amendment Bill to make provisions for direct and indirect primaries for political parties. Gudre, what does this mean?
This is politics at its, politics, whether you want to call it clean or dirty politics, but it's politics. And this is basically the might of the presidency, and of course the fact that the same political party runs the presidency, and of course the National Assembly, they lead it, and
Majority.
yeah, so they obviously has been some kind of arrangement that has been done, behind the scenes between political leaders in the presidency and the National Assembly, and they have now agreed to foist this bill on all of us. So direct primaries in the bill now that they are sending to Buhari to sign now allows or gives parties the powers to decide. So a political party can decide whether to go to direct primaries,
Okay.
right, or indirect primaries, or even select the candidates by consensus.
Isn't that a good thing?
I don't know whether to call it a good thing. I mean, I like to have options personally, as an individual, but for the state of where we are as a country today, and how quickly we want to, correct a lot of the issues that we have with our politics, I really don't know if it's a good thing. I mean, instinctively, I don't think it's a good thing. There's a lot of advantages in direct primaries, and one can understand why state governors allegedly don't like it, because that sort of wins their power in this political
Nomination vote.
in the game of politics, and nominating who goes to what political office, who goes to contest what political office or the other. And direct primaries shift powers away from governors and a lot more, to maybe their opponents or to other people. So this is just a power play. And my own problem or my own challenge here is that, as Nigerians, Nigerians who are not politicians, our concern really is what is the political process that throws up, people or candidates that we can, because at the end of the day, we can only vote for the people on the ballot box, right? So whether the parties come up with the right candidates or not, the only thing you can decide to do is not just vote at all, and that doesn't help anyway, right? So it is very important that the process of throwing up candidates at the political party, at the political party level is very important, and it's very transparent, and it's good enough to at least give us the best candidate. And so that's just my concern. So with direct primaries, it appears that that you know would that would be possible, or it's easier to get people to sit down and do actual politicking rather than godfather kind of politics. And then if you're able to maybe convince a lot more people than you can. But what they've done now is said, okay, you know what, it's up to the party, so the parties can
They
decide.
can decide what they
Yeah,
want to do.
what they want to do now. I've read the amended bill clearly, so I really don't know whether is it that parties can adopt a different you know adopt direct primaries at the presidential level and indirect at the state house level, or consensus. So I don't know whether you can choose what you like, or whether it's just one uniform system, all through, provided that's what you adopt. But this whole matter has been settled now, and hopefully the president will sign this bill, and let's just face
Move on from
move
this.
on from here,
Now,
because we do need amended electoral act.
Sticking within this kind of sphere, we have this article in from the Guardian newspaper. PVCs don't expire, INEC tells Tinubu, and insists that double registration is an offense. So the Independent National Electoral Commission urged Nigerians to disregard the claims by the national leader of the All Progressives Congress, Ahmed Bola Tinubu, that permanent voters' cards have an expiry date. So he had been in Abuja speaking to some supporters in a video that was trending, and said quite a number of times that their PVCs, some PVCs had expired. He said one of the quotes is here, saying, "In case they do not announce to you on time, the PVC you have has expired." That's literally just one of the many times he said it. So in the run up to an election, there is quite a lot of misinformation that goes around, and Tinubu has come out to apologize for his claim, but the question remains, as a 2023 presidential aspirant, is
You should know these
should
things,
he know?
right?
Should know better.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah. I mean, you would want to call this a gaffe, but it isn't. If you've said it a few times, it's not a slip up really, and it's quite disappointing that I mean, you just for things like that. PVC is from time. It's just like your national ID card, right? So it's not something that expires, something that change or whatever. So surprised that he could make that kind of mistake. But I mean, there are gifts in politics, and it does happen sometimes. People meet them, and then some never get out of it, and then some just let the dust settle and then move on. So in this particular case, I think that Nigerian politics is not really at that sort of level where games like this affect a politician's ability to gain traction as he moves on. But it just shows that he's vulnerable for a lot of people, a lot of his supporters who think that I mean, he can't make no mistake, and it's just gonna happen. But you're gonna see a lot more games like this happen, and political opponents are gonna be watching closely, and take advantage of some of them as well, just to keep creating doubts. And it's all politics, and for those of us who are not politicians, we'll just watch and see how things unfold. But again, part of our job here in the studio is just to also educate people. PVCs don't expire, please. All right, and as well, don't always listen to
It's good you reiterated that.
everything politicians tell you. Do your own research. Very important to do that. Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much for that. This next story is, well, one I think is up your alley, very, very much up your alley, as always. This one's from the Guardian newspaper. Nigeria quotes double-digit deficit financing amid fiscal indiscipline. Now, let me just put a context to this so we can break it down for us. So as the federal government continues to explore new measures of raising revenue through tax reforms, there are concerns that no amount of tax revenue will be enough to finance the magnitude of fiscal indiscipline by the executive. Now, if the cost of governance is not addressed, even debts will continue to mount. And it talks about, debt financing. It talks about, deficits. It talks about a lot about Nigeria's borrowing in general and how far we've come and where we're still headed to. So what are your thoughts about this?
Yeah, nothing new here. Nigeria has been running a budget deficit, I think by my record, since 2010 or thereabout. and that's over a decade already, preceding this particular government. And you run a budget deficit when you don't have enough revenues to meet your budgetary
So
expenditure.
it feels like that's the go-to now. That's like the default thing we do, you know?
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
If you don't have enough revenue to meet your expenditure, you run a deficit.
Hmm.
And it's not like it's we're the only ones doing this in the world. A lot of countries do that. But typically, when you run budget deficits, there are clear, parts or strategies that you put in place, to ensure that backs the objective of running those deficits. So, for example, maybe you're running budget deficit because you're trying to push a sector, perhaps maybe attract more investment in health or education, or in infrastructure and things like that. So you do run those deficits, and you hope that in decades to come, that will turn into a surplus and yield the right dividends. And that's where there seems to be a problem, because if you're running a deficit for this long, and we're not really seeing revenues go
Yes.
up, rather they are going down or staying flat, then that is a challenge. I mean, in 2010, our revenue was 3.3 trillion. 2020 was 4 trillion. 2018, 3.8 trillion.
So they're very big
hasn't really,
figures.
yeah, but then expenditures have gone up. The debt service have gone from 400 billion in 2010 to 3.2 trillion in 2020, right? So and the more deficits you run, it means that you're borrowing to finance budget, and then you're paying a lot more interest. And now we pay a lot more in interest, or as much as we pay about 2.7 trillion in interest. It's close to the same amount that you spend in your capex. So that's it, guys. So it's either you pay your taxes or government cuts its revenue. Yeah.
Well, I'm just going to move on to this day newspaper, which has this headline: Senate okays bill establishing National Rice Development Council. This was yesterday. I'm not going to go into the story. I'm sure you can do that. My question is, do we need one?
Well, in the context of how Nigeria, works, they do need one, and not like support, but I can understand why they claim they need one.
Okay.
So there is a lot of cabals that run. So there's the Paddy Rice Dealers Association, there's Rice Farmers Association of Nigeria, there's Rice Processors Association, there's Rice Millers, and rice is like
It's
the
everywhere.
main thing for this government. And I don't know whether it's going to be relevant to the next government, but for this particular government, and for as long as the few months that it has left, it's just
Championing the
yeah,
cause.
it's a holy grail, holy grail for them, right? So to manage these whole associations, you didn't need a council, and that's what this National Rights Development Council is meant to do.
All right, very quickly, we have messages from you on WhatsApp. Austin from Satellite says, some time ago, a certain northern governor said they didn't know where the bandits are. Now there are pictures of bandits, and some northern politicians are now on social media. Are they still denying about the whereabouts of the bandits? While Oluwatosin says, if an insurgency lasts beyond 24 hours, the government is involved. The Premium Times picture and others only serve to buttress this point. Felix from Ikodu Road says, Tinubu apologized after criticism on his funny statement about the expiration of PVCs. This is a serious warning to all Nigerians. And he extrapolates from that issue to say, if Tinubu becomes president, he'll apologize and give excuses throughout his time in office. And let's take this final one from Jerry.
Yeah, Jerry says, these terrorists are very known by the people. They kidnap for ransom, kill and maim everywhere. The president is just sending gallant soldiers to go and get killed for nothing. Okay, I'm sorry we can't take the rest of the message, but
Interesting.
thank you
Moving on.
for your messages regardless. On YouTube, we see all the messages as well,
Uh,
and we're totally out of time.
We don't have any more time. There were a couple of stories we didn't get to from the Punch newspaper. Reps order probe of Malami and IGP's involvement in Magodo State disputes. And from the Premium Times, dirty plea bargain. Now all oil thieves caught with 200 million
Crazy
naira
wild.
products got away with 2,000
I
naira
wish we
fine.
talked about that.
Wow.
That was that's a pretty wild story that we didn't get a chance to get to, but make sure you get to it. Go over to the Premium Times and go and read the story, or if you see it on any other daily, read it as well, because it's such an interesting story, and it makes you question a lot of things.
Thank you so much, Ugo Dre. Always a pleasure having you here.
Thank you.
You can find Ugo Dre on social media across all platforms at Ugo Dre, and we are going to continue the conversation on Lagos Talks 91 in a few moments, so please stay with us. All right.
Peace, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ugo Dre.
Man, we didn't get a chance to